Hello, welcome back to the channel and also to the craft room. Now, the video today is, we're not really making a project. This is more of a fact-finding one. And what happened was after I did one of my recent videos on the crocodile stitch, I had some questions from the subscribers, which is what I asked for, so thank you, that certain stitches are called yarn eaters, but it's not really explained what a yarn eater is and what classifies a stitch as a yarn eater. So I thought I shall find out. So I went on the internet and I did a bit of Google foo and all this, and I didn't find anywhere that gave you any kind of gauge to know what makes a stitch a yarn eater as opposed to what's not a yarn eater. And it's really a not specific term, but what it usually means is a yarn that uses a stitch that uses a lot more of the yarn to make the same size of finished project. For example, if you use a meter to make something with one stitch, you may need 3 meters to make it with another stitch. Therefore, the 3-meter one is a yarn eater. So you're not getting a bigger object, you're just getting more yarn used. So what I thought I'd do is I've made some little samples up, all using the same yarn, and I've used a pretty good yarn, so it's got a consistent quality all the way through. They were all made up with the same hook and the same yarn from the same ball. So they should be consistent in the quality. Then I did a few different types, and I'll go to the close camera in a minute and just show you what types they are before we do anything to them. I also included the crocodile stitch that I showed in the previous video. Now, none of these little samples have been finished off. You should be able to see that little loop. Yes, you can. So what I'm going to do, and it really feels weird to do this, but I've made 6 samples of different stitches, and I will unravel them for you and measure how much yarn each one used. And hopefully that will give us a good ratio to work from on how much each kind of stitch uses. So we will go to the front camera and we will have a look. Let me get on my chair once again. So this is my little pile of samples, and I've made them all. I started with this one. Move that out of the way. So this is the crocodile stitch, and I put little labels on them so that when I unravel them, they're all going to look the same. At least I'll know which one's which. So this is the crocodile stitch I showed in the other video. Show you the back. And I've just done it. It's about 2 inches square. But what I did, because this one was the most complex stitch pattern, I did this one first and then made all the others match it. So that's the first one. Then the next one I did was another stitch that's called a yarn eater. Let's move them out of the way so they're not distracting. Is waffle stitch. Now, this is waffle stitch side to side. All right, it's another stitch that has 2 rows, and that's regarded as a yarn eater. But I also did a center out waffle stitch. I'll turn it a bit so you can see all the ridges, just in case there was a difference in how much they add. They do look different when you put them side to side, but they are both waffle stitch. We'll stack them all up. As you can see, they're approximately the same size. Then I did V-stitch. Hold it up the right way might help. Now, V-stitch is usually recommended as a stitch that is not a yarn eater. And so I thought this was a good one to do as a comparison. And then I also did HDC, or half double crochets, which is used a lot for accessories and children's clothing because it's very fluid, but it's still fairly dense. And then last but not least, I did the same size square in double crochet. So we have a nice little stack of samples or swatches, all done with the same yarn. and all approximately the same size. And what I did when I put my labels on, I also cut the ends the same size, and I've done the tails on the loops the same size. So we're going to now go and unravel all of these and measure them without stretching the yarn and see which stitch. First of all, what I'll do is I will use the double crochet, because most people know what a double crochet is. This will be our standard, okay? Everything will be the bigger or smaller than this one. And we will see how much we use. And it should give you some idea of, if I want to make the same project, but I want to do it in half double crochet, how much more wool will I need? Will I need 50% more? Will I need 50% less? So it should, this is fingers crossed, be able to work that out. And especially for the more complex ones, because yeah, it'd be nice to know you have enough yarn before you start. So I will be back with that. And we're back, and it's all done. I managed to get them all laid out and measured, and did it while the cat was still asleep, so that was helpful. And I've got them all set up here, so we will move to the close camera and discuss what I found out. And here we go. This is my nice collection of small unraveled squares. I nearly said small balls, but you didn't hear that. And here we go. Can we see them? Yes, we can. All right, so the first thing I did was that I weighed all the squares. And if you look on my little screwed up pieces of paper, the top ones all weigh about the same. The ones down the bottom, these two are fairly similar. That one jumps up quite a lot, which, yeah, there you go. I wouldn't have guessed that. So what I did after that is I got all the information that I found out, and I made up a chart. Now this chart is available for free on my Ko-fi page, and I'll put a link in the description. It's a PDF, so it should print out on just about every printer, or you can just save it to your device that you use, whatever you like. I put it for free because I may have to change this later if I come across another stitch that people want me to check or whatever. Not a problem. So what I've done here is I've marked them out into a chart, and I've also worked out your percentages. And there was a couple of things that I thought was interesting. First of all, I thought the half double crochet would be fairly close, but the V-stitch is actually between them, which is interesting. Only a nearly 3% difference. That's not too bad. You probably have that allowable in the wool that you buy anyway. But if we jump down to the crocodile stitch, you need nearly 100% more yarn. You've got to double your yarn amount at least, which, wow. And the other thing I thought was unusual, these are both waffle stitch, as you saw on the earlier part, but there's a difference of nearly 4 meters of yarn, and the percentage jumps up to over half. So you need to another 0.5%, you need to add another amount, 50% more, 50, nearly 60, which was surprising. So that's the center start. You also need to remember that this is intended as just a guide. Don't take it as exact, because your tension will be different to mine. You need to look at this and then remember what your own tension and yarn usage is like compared to what they say in the patterns. So if you find you use more or less yarn than usual on other things you've done, take that into account and just use this as a guide. And I hope this was useful to you. And if you like the video, please share it, put a like on it, subscribe, and I will see you on the next video.